Welcome back, and we're not quite done with our review of the just concluded NBA elections. And of course, we have, on our sister political program, also had an opportunity for an up-close with the president-elect, Mrs. Oyinkansola Badejo Okunsoya, who polled 47.1% of the votes. That's exactly 12,317. But there are also other contestants in that election. Lateef Omoyemi Akomwe, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, polled 7,903 votes. That's 30% of the votes. And Mr. Akomwe, SAN joins us now on the program to talk more about the NBA elections. He is live virtually for us this morning. Mr. Lateef Omoyemi Akomwe, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Thank you very much. Good morning. It's a pleasure being with you this morning.
It's a pleasure to have you. Now, the dust raised by that election is yet to settle, with so many contentions coming, especially from those who were unable to participate in the election. There were concerns about inability to access the portal. We have also taken a peep into your statement. You talked about your inability to vote and how it was marred by irregularities. Talk to us about that process more extensively now that we have you live.
Thank you very much. The process is one that I reckon that is unavoidable. And it's unavoidable because of the way we've set up the entire electoral process. Right from the get-go, some of us have raised our concerns about the service provider that was engaged by the electoral body. The chief concern was the fact that this service provider is a sole proprietor that nobody knows anything about. One, two is that there is no proven record of having done an election of this magnitude, or any other election for that matter. Now, thirdly, is the fact that this is a company that I call a fly-by-the-night company, a company that moved from inactive when it was bidding for the engagement to become active just a few hours before appointment. So what we had was that this company had never filed a return at the CAC for 6 years, and only went to regularize its filing just a few hours before the appointment. And for me, that raised a lot of red flag. And it must raise red flag, to any member of society who has been following the NBA election over the last 3 cycles of election. In the last 3 cycles of election, we haven't had an election where, after the election, there hasn't been either the matter ends up in court or there's allegation of malpractice and irregularities. And we're saying there's trust deficit. Let's get things right. The proper thing to do is that rather than use this so-called company, that moved from being inactive, and if you are doing your due diligence as a constitution of the NBA demands that you do, you would have, all this would have been revealed. Then you would find you look at a proper company. We then suggested at different levels of conversation that the proper thing to do is, why don't you get 2 credible or reputable firms, foreign firms, that have done this over the years, that have a reputation for doing or conducting proper elections, and get 2 of the big 4 accounting firms in Nigeria as auditors to audit the entire process, pre and post, audit the data that will be used, clean up the data, and ensure that the infrastructure is such that can withstand the entire process. All of these fell, to deaf ears. The president of the bar was not ready. AFAM was not ready to do all of this. Now, I even suggested, because of the previous election, I suggested that the proper way to ensure credibility of this process is that let us use the NIN, that every single Nigerian that has a telephone has an NIN. Use the NIN as an authenticator or an identificator to identify individuals before they go on the platform and vote. But the system, the process you're suggesting, which is the Supreme Court numbers of lawyers, is very porous. It's not difficult for you to get Supreme Court numbers of lawyers. And OTPs can either be intercepted, or there could be network issues that wouldn't let OTP drops in people's telephones. Therefore, use a unique identificator, which is the NIN, and everybody can, from the comfort of their home, be it on email or on telephone, be able to vote. This will bring credibility to the process.
So are you alleging irregularities? Are you alleging malpractice? And if you are, is it against the leadership of the NBA in line with the president-elect?
Well, begin with, I put it down to incompetence. Incompetence on the part of the electoral body. Why do I say that? The moment we were supposed to do a test run, I don't think a test run was done. So the moment the process commenced at 12 midnight, within 15 minutes, the system went down. It never came back up until 7:35 in the morning. And the simple excuse for that was that there was a cyber attack. Therefore, they had to migrate to another system. And I said, if you had a backup, number one, if I had done a test run, you would have seen all of this, number one. Number two is that if you had a backup, it wouldn't take you that long to be able to switch to the backup. If you don't have a backup and you're migrating to a new system, it would take you far longer than 6 hours to build a new one. So what happened? That's as regards to the issue of incompetence. Now, irregularities. Let me speak to that. We all agreed that before the commencement, the technical experts of each candidate will come and inspect the system and the admin and all of that. That, number one, was not done before the election commenced. Two, when they switched back at 7:35, no inspection was done. Our technical experts couldn't even move close to the back end. No communication. Even the cyber attack remains unverified till today. Now, when you look at all of this together, put as a whole, it is very suggestive of what you said. Now, fairness, free and fair election was what we wanted. When the election commenced, on the ballot paper, you would initially already see that only picture of one candidate was on the ballot paper. My picture was on the ballot paper. The picture of the other candidate, the second runner-up, was on the ballot paper. His name was not even on the ballot paper to begin with. Then we raised concerns, and by 7:35, this had been addressed. And I'm saying, well, lawyers, how can it be? We thrive. We thrive on fairness as lawyers. We thrive on due process as lawyers. How can you say an election is fair when out of 3 candidates, you have the picture of just one candidate? Did you not see that before we raised the concern? Because I had to raise the concern with the president of the association. I raised the concern with him before it was rectified. Now, equal playing field is what we say all the time. If INEC did that, the NBA will be well in order to raise an objection to that. But we are the one falling short of what is required in an election. So all of this led to the massive disenfranchisement of members. We didn't have a low turnout of voters. What we had was disenfranchisement in an election where 62,000 members couldn't vote. So in terms of the plurality of people that voted, we had more members out there that couldn't vote than the ones that voted. And the number is so significant that if they had come in, you could have changed the election for any of the candidates.
It will be interesting in the coming weeks and months to see how this will be addressed by the NBA, especially Madam President-elect. So perhaps the question would be, what are the options indeed for you? And perhaps what would be your next line of action? But there are those who are also wondering why these defeats may be a bit so painful. They're suggesting that maybe it's because a woman emerged as NBA president-elect, defeating 2 strong men. So confirm for us if you have congratulated Madam NBA president-elect.
So all along in the campaign, I've always made it clear that our decisions as a professional body that we are should never be on sentiment or gender-based or tribal, or based on tribal sentiments or age and all of that. So I don't even buy to that. For me, the issues we have in the NBA, the challenges bedeviling us, doesn't know gender. Doesn't matter. What we need is someone that has capacity, competence, and character that can take the association back to its pride of place. So for me, I don't see gender, I don't see tribe, I just see competence. I see competence, that's what I see. So I don't think being a woman has nothing to do with the conversations here. But in terms of what I expect, the least I expected from the president-elect is an acknowledgement of the flawed process, to even speak to it and say, yes, this and that happened. I couldn't vote as a candidate. Akiboro, SAN, couldn't vote as a candidate. Even the president-elect, from the published list, people are saying her name is not even on the list of the voters that voted. But she has not even said anything about that. Come out and acknowledge that these were the flaws. And it's not far-fetched. We've had the president in this country who came into power and acknowledged that, yes, we've won, we declared winners. But we acknowledge the fact that the process that brought us in was flawed. What that says to the people is that you've seen that the system is broken and you will fix it. But when you don't admit, acknowledge that the system is broken, you're not going to fix it. These are fundamental issues.
All right, Ms. Akungbe.
These are things that members want to know.
So my quick series of questions in one breath will be, has she reached out to you since this election ended? The second part will be, yes, it's a flawed process. I think I listened to her on Sunday with my colleague Sean when she acknowledged that part, but I may be wrong. But if you were the victor in this case, even with the flaws that you've enumerated, because I've interviewed Mr. Kimball as well, he identified these things, would you be saying what you're saying as well? And the third question, if you can forget, I will remind you, is, has there ever been, because you said about 50-something thousand people could not vote, that means that you are telling us that in every NBA election is 100% voter turnout. Is that what you're saying?
Thank you. So I'll take the three questions. One is whether I've reached out to her or whether she has reached out to me. I think we've reached out to each other, but unfortunately, we have not been able to speak to each other. Yes. She did reach out. I reached out to her first twice. She couldn't speak to me at the time. She reached out to me yesterday. I was unavailable as well. So in terms of that, I would say we've reached out to each other. We've not been able to speak to each other. Okay. That's that. Then your second question about whether the turnout has always been 100%. No. And if you look at my statement, you see, I actually did the statistics of the last 3-4 elections. At the minimum, we've always had nothing less than 56% turnout at the elections. 56% as opposed to what we have currently, which is barely 30%.
Oh dear. Let us see. Can you hear us? All right. So the picture you're seeing there, the three contenders, Mrs. Badijo.
And the difference, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
The difference between those elections and this one.
Please go ahead, please. We can hear you. Okay, so Mr. Lateef Akungbe is our guest. Yes, can you hear us now? Yes, please go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
I said, and the difference between those elections and this one would be members saying, perhaps I don't want to vote, or members are given the opportunity to vote and they didn't take it. But the difference here is that people were saying, I want to vote. Members were calling at 3 o'clock in the morning that they couldn't vote. 2 senior advocates called me. A female senior advocate called me about 9 p.m. the night before, said she's been trying all day, she couldn't vote. At 6:35 in the morning, another female senior advocate called me that she couldn't vote. So that's the difference. The fact that people saying I've been disenfranchised. A whole class, 2025 class of the NBA couldn't vote. A whole class. That's 13,000 members. They couldn't vote because the NBA didn't allow them. They said, oh, what they needed to vote with was their exam number and not Supreme Court number. But nobody told them that. This announcement was never made to them by the NBA beforehand to say 2025 class, 13,000 of you would vote with your Supreme Court number, with your exam number rather than your Supreme Court number. So you had a whole class of 13,000 members disenfranchised. Only the ones that knew that they could use their exam number were able to vote.
Yeah, my last question, because I asked the questions in
So
one. If you had emerged victor, would this still be your remark?
If I emerged, my position would have been that there should be a rerun, which is what I expect them to say. Rerun because you want to enjoy the mandate of the majority of your members. So because if you look at the figures, even in terms of the votes that came in, which was about 25,000 votes, the margin was such that if you combine my votes with that of the second runner-up, they're actually 50%, 53% of the votes, which means that the majority of people that cast their votes did not prefer you. So when you look at that, it's about the will of the majority. So the question is, yeah, and I know that it's simple majority. Once you have more votes than other contenders, you're the winner. But in terms of the morality of it, the implication is that more members did not prefer you at that election. So if I were the winner, one, I will acknowledge the process was flawed, and I would immediately commence conversations around how to, ensure that electoral process in the NBA is reformed, because it needs serious reform. Thirdly, is that a rerun would be an opportunity for you to tell the members that, okay, I want to enjoy the mandate of the majority of our people. I want to know that the will of the majority is what brought me to power. But again, I would expect that the ACMB at the very least will be addressing these issues. But nobody's addressing the issues. That's the concern. The association of the lawyers are supposed to set the standard, gold standard, be at the vanguard of ensuring that democracy is exemplified. We are the ones falling short of it. And I ask the question, in a couple of months from now, the INEC will come to us to come and monitor and observe elections.
Yeah.
What are we going to be monitoring and observing? What is the moral right we have to tell them they're not doing the proper thing when we ourselves are falling short of doing the proper thing? And nobody's speaking about it. Leadership is not saying anything about it. People are carrying on as if it's normal times. It's not. Let us identify the elephant in the room.
Yeah, it's very noble that you say if you were the one, that emerged victorious on this ballot, given the circumstances, you would have called for a run. Some would say something that is very rare in these parts. But we have also listened to the president-elect, Madam Badegjo Kusoya, and she has committed, to an audit of the election process, as well as prioritizing unifying the NBA, against the backdrop of these issues. And I want to piggyback on some of the issues that brought us here in the first place, because there were concerns about, the agenda by Egbe Amofio Dudua. The NBA kicked against the letter written by the Attorney General of the Federation to the NBA over this election that has just been held. Some said that you were the preferred candidate of Egbe Amofio Dudua. And then in spite of all of that zoning, subjects that divided the association ahead of this election, that the president-elect still emerged victorious by a wide margin, which was a clear decider of the election. How do you respond to these aspects of the conversation, which I'm sure that you have been listening in on ahead of and after the election?
Well, let me correct this straight away. I am not the candidate of the Egbe Amofio Dudua. Mr. Kimboro SAN is the endorsed candidate of the Egbe Amofio Dudua. As a matter of fact, I would like you to know that I'm actually the one that is an independent candidate, not backed by any of the establishments. I mean, you would have heard the conversation one now where the NBA president said he can't be neutral as a candidate. And that machinery was supporting the president-elect, where the Egbe Amofio was supporting the other candidates. So I actually stood in the middle as a neutral and independent candidate till today. So I'm not the candidate. I don't agree with that. I can only speak, about my own race. But what I think is that I think the president-elect has a lot to do in terms of unifying the entire system, ensuring that things, NBA is brought together as a single united body that is clear in its purpose and modern in its method of delivering real value to every lawyer in Nigeria, regardless of how you practice, where you practice. As long as a lawyer, the NBA should work for you. And she has a lot to do, with that. And the way she can start to do that is get people who have things to offer, to come on board, regardless of your political affiliations. Look for merit and credible people who can make a difference in the NBA, number one. Number two, and I will commend her if she can ensure that a post-audit, not a report that is being issued now, the database, the primary source can reveal all the digital footprints, who went in where, who did what. If she does that, she would have commenced her administration in a way that nobody had done in the past. So she'll be setting a huge record. That would be the beginning of writing her name in gold. I implore her, I urge her that even without anything, and she's committed to that in the past, and I'm taking her up on that, to ensure that there's an independent audit, post-audit of the database, the back end. If she does that, she would have written her name in gold. And I hope she stands by that. She's made that commitment to me in person, in a one-on-one conversation. She's made it openly. And I urge her, and I'm calling on her to ensure that a post-audit of the database, of the back end, is conducted. If she does that, tell you, she would have gone a long way in unifying stories that couldn't vote for her. She would have done a lot to bring them together.
Maybe just a yes or no question. I asked you before about your next line of action. Are you headed for the courts?
No, I am not. No, I am not. I will not.
All right. Thank you indeed.
Because I will not, because I know nothing will come out of it.
All right.
So you do not trust you do not trust the courts as a lawyer.
Mr. Akongwe, are you there?
Well, the last election, the first runner-up in the last election is still in court, and the president is going to be handing over in 4 weeks from now. He's still in court, challenging not even the election itself. What is challenging is his right, his constitutional right to do a post-audit. He was denied a post-audit of the database, of the back end. Now, the courts have said, you need the consent of each and every person that voted for you to be able to access it. He's still in court. Previous ones have been in court, and the president challenging would run entire office whilst they're in court. So if there is anything to go by, I believe going to court would be a waste of my time. I wouldn't even advise my clients in the circumstance to go to court. So why would I do that to myself?
Well, perhaps because of the bureaucracy of the justice system, which itself is an issue, we could be, trite to accept your reason for not going to court. But because you do not trust the justice system, well, we'll be wondering as a lawyer why you wouldn't trust the justice system itself. But we look forward really to, in the future, an NBA election that is devoid of this crisis of confidence and legitimacy issues and divisions, such that we can tell a better story as far as the NBA election is concerned, especially because, you yourself describe lawyers as those who thrive on fairness, and equity because of the nature of the profession. We must thank you very much for coming on the program. We've been talking with Mr. Lateef Akongwe, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and of course, first runner-up in the just concluded NBA elections. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And from here, we'll take a moment. We're not quite done yet. There's one more place to stop, and that will be the national economy. Stay with us. We'll be right back.